Okay, Suzanne, so we're going to read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. You've never read this, right? No. Okay. All right, and take your time and make believe you're doing it for enjoyment.
Okay. Yes, better than the dyslexia book. Mr. and Mrs. Jersey of number 4. Privet Drive?
Yes.
Privet, okay. Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved, okay. Involved in anything starting or mysterious.
Good, you got mysterious. Now go back a couple words.
Okay.
They were the last.
They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious.
Good, you got strange.
Because they just didn't hold with such nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I know I read a little slower.
Yeah.
But I understood what I just read. So I don't have to, like, in my head, I'm talking about a mystery, and they're talking about, what's his name? Dursley.
Dursley, right,
Yeah.
Mr. Dursley.
Before, when I read the regular, I wouldn't have remembered any of the facts, like it was mysterious.
You were just saying the words.
I would have gotten through this whole page, and I would have read it, and blank.
Wow.
Okay. So I know it's a little slower, but...
It's supposed to be a little slower. I want you to go a little slower. You tend to read extremely fast.
I do.
Right, so she's reading. Jenna has that problem too.
Yeah,
She
I read
reads
very
she's
fast.
such a good decoder that she just like plows through
So
everything.
I'm going slow purposely right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Grunnings.
Mm-hmm.
Grunnings, which made drills.
Yep.
He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck. And although he did have a very large mustache, Mr. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she. I thought it was a he.
Because you said Mr. instead of Mrs. So
Mr. Dursley, and now I'm on Mrs.
Wait. Now that you got that,
I just comprehended what I just read.
Yeah, but if you were doing this on your own and you said, "Oh," what you would automatically do is go back and say, "Gee, why did something doesn't make sense? I'm going to go back and reread that paragraph."
I wouldn't have read it at all.
But okay.
I would have missed that fact.
All right, but when this does happen to you, go back to the beginning of the paragraph.
Okay.
Because the first time through, you said Mr.
Right.
Instead of MR, S, you said, you saw it as Mr.
Right. Okay. That's
So go
interesting.
back
Okay,
and-
so Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time caring over garden fences.
Did that make sense?
Yep, she was a gardener, so she spent more time outside in the garden.
No.
No.
No?
Start it again.
Staring.
Yes.
Staring. So she's a nosy lady. She just watches all the neighbors.
Staring over garden fences, spying.
Spying. I gotcha.
Right, but this is where you got the mistake.
I didn't get to spying. That was the next word.
Right here. What's that word?
Great.
Right.
And you said
Craning.
something else.
She said
Craning.
caring.
Right, caring, which
I
changed.
never
that's
saw
what
that word, craning. Like that when he read it, I was like, craning?
Right, you're going
I don't
like
know
this.
that word.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a
your
crane.
next craning.
Right,
Yeah.
so you said
She's
caring,
nosy.
so you said she likes working in her garden.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so-
why.
It's not about working in her garden.
I gotcha. Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Okay.
and Cole is saying, he made the same mistake, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, because just the
Now that I see it.
RAAR, that's all it is, just
Okay.
two letters.
Okay.
All right, so she's craning over
Craning over
garden fences, spying on the neighbors. Right.
Okay. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion, there was no finer boy anywhere. There was no
Right.
finer boy anywhere.
Okay, now,
So they
if
think
that
his son's
doesn't
so
quite
wonderful.
make sense to you,
Yeah.
read the sentence again.
No, that made sense. It made
What
sense.
would explain it to
They
me
just
then.
think their son is awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. There's
We
no
all-
finer boy anywhere.
Of course.
Just like my kids.
The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret. And their greatest fear was that something would discover it.
Somebody, not something. The greatest fear
Oh,
was
yeah,
that
somebody.
was someone or somebody. What's the
Somebody.
He said someone, and you were trying to make him focus on the somebody, Cole.
Isn't that
He
funny?
was
Okay.
saying someone.
What did I say? I said
You
someone.
said
something? You said
something.
something. Yes. Which again would change
Change it to the way
yes.
I want to.
All right, go
That's
ahead.
weird.
You know what? I
We
mean,
both said the
just
same thing.
just keep
All right.
going, and I think you'll feel more and more
All right.
relaxed as you're going along.
They didn't think they could, well, plus Paulette's here, so I'm maybe nervous, I don't know. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Mrs. Potter was Mrs. Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as undursley-ish, undursley-ish.
What do you think that means?
Not like the Dursleys.
Right. Good. All right. And you know what? I just noticed you're reading 100% inverted now.
Yeah, and I was like reading, like I was reading the other day. This looks better on my eyes.
Well, then do it the way that is
Okay.
better.
Oh, okay.
You know, if that's better,
Okay, that
hold
is.
it exactly the way it's better.
It is. And Dursley is as it was possible as it was possible to be. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had had a small son too, but they never even seen him.
Mm-hmm.
But they had never even seen him. Okay. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. Okay, so obviously the Dursleys think that they're far better than the Potters, and they don't want to mix with that kind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll just read to the end of the page, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna have to stop. So.
Yeah, that's fine.
When Mr. and Mrs. Dursley work up on the dull gray Tuesday, our story starts. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed as he picked out his most boring tie for work. And Mrs. Dursley gossiped away happily as she wrestled a
Good.
screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large tawny owl flutter past the window. At 8:30, Mr. Dursley picked up his briefcase, pecked Mrs. Dursley on the cheek, and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye, but missed because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the walls. Little Tyke chortled.
Chortled. Good.
Chortled.
Which is
Not a word
Not
a word I use.
No.
Mr. Dursley, as he left the house, he got into his car and backed out of number 4's drive. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed the first sign of something peculiar. A cat reading a map. For a second, Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing out on the corner of Privet Drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. Okay, so I guess.